Hello, and welcome to the Kink Perspective. My name's Chris. I'm a psychotherapist and consultant. Today's show is something I'm going to talk about that does happen to a lot of us in the lifestyle. It was a listener request. Actually, quite a few listeners have been kind of sending me some emails about this topic. Hadn't had a chance to really get around and start discussing it until today. So first, before I even get into the show, I want to say welcome to all of the new listeners that are starting to come in. Really do appreciate you. I'm really glad you're here along this journey. And, I just appreciate you kind of tuning in and checking out the show. And for those of you who've been supporting the show for a while, listening for the last couple of years, you're very much appreciated. I also want to let you know that if you're following me on Spotify or even Apple or somewhere else, if you could please rate the show, hit that 5 stars for me. This allows other people to find this content, to maybe benefit from it, and it allows the show to keep growing. And if you want to keep the content growing and, help me cover some of the production costs and the time for me to get into some of these more serious topics, there is a donation link in the description of the show. Every little bit helps cover production costs, and it does keep some of the conversations when I have guests come on that are so strong for our community. And so I just want to thank, those who have contributed. And like I said, if you want to do something big or small, it all helps out. So let's get into today's topic. Today, I'm going to be talking about burnout. Now, this doesn't matter if you're a dom or you're a sub, a switch, or anywhere in between. Burnout can happen to anyone inside of the lifestyle. It's that feeling when the energy and the passion you once had for our scenes or our dynamics starts to fade a little bit. Now, maybe you feel disconnected from your role, or what you used to bring to you joy inside of the lifestyle starts to feel a little bit like a chore. And if you've ever felt like that, don't worry, you're not really alone. Today, I'm going to kind of break this down, and so we can all understand how burnout really does show up in the lifestyle and how to spot the signs early, and most importantly, even how to handle it and how you can get back to enjoying some of the things that you love. I've seen this happen with some of the clients that I work with in my therapy practice who were really fully immersed in their roles and were really thriving in their dynamics. But sometimes, out of nowhere, they hit that wall. And what used to feel really exciting suddenly felt exhausting and monotonous. And it can be confusing and frustrating when this happens. And so today we're going to really talk about how we deal with that. So first, what really is burnout inside a lifestyle? And I think this is a really good point to start understanding what I'm talking about here. Burnout really is specifically, it's not just isolated to the things we do in the lifestyle. People in sports or even in our jobs, we can experience burnout. It's more than just a feeling of being tired, though, or stressed, and you just need a day or two off. It really does get to a deeper level of physical and emotional and mental exhaustion that comes from this whole prolonged stress or overexertion. And even something that we're passionate about, it does happen inside of the lifestyle. It's not uncommon. If we're living the very tedious DS-powered, total power exchange dynamic, constantly having to, micromanage or do tasks or perform can lead to some of that feeling of burnout. And burnout, and for us in the lifestyle, can definitely show up in a variety of ways. Now, whether it's during a scene potentially, or your general engagement with the community, it is possible to hit that point where you're just like, this is a little bit too much and I think I need a break. Now, it doesn't mean you've lost interest or that you're failing in your role somehow. It just means that your mind and your body are telling you, hey, it's time to slow down a little bit, maybe recharge, time to regroup a little bit. So here, let's talk a little bit about some of the specific signs of maybe burnout inside of the lifestyle. Now, first, we're going to probably encounter loss of desire for scenes or play or the community, aspect. You might find yourself avoiding some of the scenes or feeling like the passion once you had for them just isn't there anymore. Another sign here could be emotional detachment from our partners or the dynamics. You might start to feel disconnected or, not only from your partner, but from the dynamic itself. It's like you're just going through the motions. Or maybe it's feeling like The play is becoming routine or a chore. You're just doing the same thing over and over, and what used to feel exciting just feels repetitive. Or even like a task that you have to check off of a list. And, if you've ever been there, it's not fun. Maybe you're struggling to maintain communication or connection. You're just, finding it difficult to keep that communication going and maintaining the connection that you usually have with your partner. Finally, we've got physical exhaustion or that whole difficulty in getting into the right headspace. Right? And a couple weeks back, I was talking about capacity. Sometimes burnout really does hit you physically and you're just tired, you're exhausted. You can't seem to get into the right mental space you need for the power exchange. Now, why does burnout happen? Now, this is usually a big mix of factors here. Now, there's stress from balancing the lifestyle rules with our everyday life. And let's be real for a moment. Many of us do juggle our careers, our family, our friends, and our everyday responsibilities with our roles in the lifestyle. And that constant balancing act can wear you down. Pushing boundaries often without recovery, if you're constantly pushing your limits in the scenes without taking enough time to rest and recover both physically and emotionally, really does take a toll. It takes a toll and it requires so much of our energy to recharge that we don't really think about that. And for some, and I'm a little bit mixed on this, but I kind of threw this in there can be this whole, the lack of aftercare, maybe some emotional processing over time. Sometimes we do skip that emotional check-in or the aftercare we need, especially if we haven't negotiated it. So it might be a really good time to, talk about your dynamics and have a discussion about your needs and your wants and maybe renegotiate it back in. But if we're skipping this whole check-in part and we discover we need it, especially if there's something intense, what happens is over time, all this stuff starts to add up and it leaves you kind of feeling drained, really without knowing why. Now, burnout doesn't just happen overnight. It's a slow buildup over time. If you start to understand these signs early, in their, infancy stages here, what you can do, this becomes the first steps to managing it before it starts to derail your connection to the lifestyle, your dynamics, or your overall well-being, or even disconnecting from your partner. If you can catch burnout before it fully sets in, you can take proactive steps to protect your energy and rekindle that passion that brought you into the lifestyle in the first place. So, how do we recognize it? And I think this becomes here a really key point. If we start to identify the signs before they spiral out of control, that can truly change the game for how you experience the lifestyle, right? And I've seen some couples who are quite intense, S&M type dynamics where they're going hard and they're doing scenes for years and they're always pushing boundaries and it's beautiful and you just watch their passion unfold and then they kind of hit that brick wall. It's like, well, we've kind of done it all and they really haven't, but they don't know where to go and it kind of, maybe there's something going on at work or something else is stifling them and then boom, burnout starts to set in. Now, first here, you can start by tuning in to the whole emotional cues that you're giving off, and you're really going to start seeing these signs with your emotions. These are often the first indicators that something's wrong. You might find yourself feeling a little bit resentful or irritable. Maybe you even feel a little bit overwhelmed after the scene. Now, instead of that whole familiar post-scene high, you leave feeling a little bit drained or frustrated. Maybe you're wondering where the enjoyment went. It's almost like a cloud has settled over your passion and it's kind of dimming what used to excite you. Now, another significant sign is when you start to lose excitement or joy for kink activities that once brought you really an immense amount of pleasure. Activities that used to spark enthusiasm more feel like a chore, just this obligation you have to do, and they leave you with this sense of dread rather than anticipation. Now, this shift can be disheartening. It can make you question your connection to the lifestyle, maybe even your role within it. And so next, I really want to kind of sort of maybe let's look and consider some of the physical and mental cues that we're starting to see. Chronic fatigue, maybe trouble sleeping, or, those nagging stress headaches that can kind of signal your body's trying to catch your attention. You might feel like you're a little bit in a constant state of exhaustion, Maybe even after getting, a good night's rest, you leave wondering how you could feel so worn out, right? You're just, why am I still tired? You know? Especially when you're doing something that you love. The physical fatigue can compound the mental challenges you face, which leads to difficulty focusing on the scene and being truly present with your partner. Now, instead of feeling that whole deep connection that we normally do, your mind's going to start drifting. It's going to leave you feeling detached and definitely unsatisfied. Then, well, there are the relationship and communication cues here, and we might overlook those. And this can really indicate to you burnout starting to creep in. If you find yourself maybe avoiding conversations about scenes, an upcoming play party, or an event you want to go to, you don't want to talk about your dynamic or preferences anymore, well, that's a great warning flag to you. These discussions are really essential for keeping all of that communication open and flowing. If you're starting to withdraw from them, this can create this whole disconnect between you and your partner, or you and like the community that you're a part of. You might feel hesitant to share your feelings or your concerns, this whole fear of judgment or misunderstanding. And you might even begin to notice that there's this growing sense of distance from your partners, or that you start to withdraw from maybe the community altogether. The events that you used to go to every third Saturday, you don't go anymore. Now, whether it's skipping these things that you really enjoyed, or you're ignoring messages from friends, you're not logging on and checking social media, you're starting to isolate yourself, which can make it really harder to reconnect later on. Now, it's easy to dismiss all of this, to kind of, pass over these feelings as a temporary phase, but they really are signaling something deeper that could be a struggle within burnout. If you recognize these things, and if you really catch them early, it becomes vital, because this allows you to take proactive steps before the burnout takes over your life. And it's all too easy to overlook the signs when life gets busy or chaotic, but being aware, it gives you the power to take them back, or take a step back and assess what's really going on with you. And if you can properly address your feelings, especially early on, you regain control over your well-being and the enjoyment in the lifestyle. Now, by acknowledging and addressing these signs and not just dismissing them, you create an opportunity here really to reconnect not only with your passion, but also with the people who you share them with, right? Ultimately, this awareness can be the key to maintaining your love for the lifestyle and ensure that burnout doesn't rob you of the joy that you brought to it in the first place. Because that's why we're all here. We enjoy the nuanced aspects of everything that we're doing. We like the impact scenes, or the sensual domination or electrocution of the rope play. Everybody is here for something, right? Except you rope people. We don't know why you're here. No, I'm kidding. Don't panic, right? I give you rope community a lot of grief, but, mad respect for you all. Just takes 27,000 hours to do one scene. But I digress. I have to joke about it because I had some jokes with somebody earlier this week about rope, and or middle of last week about rope, and I do like the rope community. But how do we handle all of this, right? How do we deal with burnout? Now that I've kind of got you thinking about it and recognizing some of the signs, let's talk about how we handle it. Now, this stuff becomes integral for maintaining your passion and connection to the lifestyle. Now, I'm going to give you a few steps here to kind of start navigating this whole challenging experience you might be going through if you've encountered burnout. And let me be honest with you, there was a point in my life, in this big journey I've been on for the last 26 years inside of the lifestyle, there's been times there where I've stepped back. I stepped back because I needed a break. I stepped back because I was having issues with partners, and it was clouding judgment, and it was a drain, and I just didn't feel connected. So it does affect many people. Whether they're going to admit it or not, that's a different story. But, maybe this is a good way to see it. So first, take a break. Now, this whole first step here gives you the permission to take that break. It can feel difficult, especially if you're really used to being active in the scenes or your dynamics, but take some time off. It's essential to, to really rebuild that mental and emotional energy back to really fully recover, and allow yourself to rest without guilt. Don't be guilted in coming back to the scene because it's not going to do you any good. It's going to further disconnect you from everything you're doing. This gives you this whole opportunity to recharge, reflect, regain your energy. Now, whether it's a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, step away from all of these high-pressure situations. Give yourself a moment that you need to kind of heal, right? Second part is make sure you're communicating. Talk to your partner about how you're feeling. Approach that whole thing. There's no blame here. Just focus on what's going on with you. Don't start pointing fingers, right? Express your need for a rest or a temporary change in the dynamics. Through this whole communication process here, we learn that our partners are talking to us, they're telling us how they feel, and they're looking for some support during their time, especially if they're struggling a little bit. So, that's fine. We have to remember, especially if we are involved in a relationship, it's not just about our needs, it's also about our partner's needs, and that's why we're there, to support them, right? So being vulnerable here is going to turn out to be a strength, because when you're sharing what you're struggling with, it's going to deepen that connection to each other, right? I mean, that becomes the end goal, because we're trying to grow together. I don't really understand when that backfires, and people ask me that question quite often. Well, what happens when it backfires? Well, if it backfires, you weren't in a relationship anyway, right? This next step here is what I like to call reconnect with your why, right? Take some time to reflect on what actually brought you to the lifestyle in the first place. Think about the excitement, the fulfillment, the joy that it brought to you, that whole, anticipation. Consider the elements that still resonate with you. If you can identify these whole core reasons here, you can reignite that passion and that focus on the aspects of the lifestyle that continue to bring you happiness. Reflecting on these helps you find your path back to the joy that you once felt. This next part, I kind of talk about this often. It's a little bit of self-care. Don't underestimate the power of this, right? Engage in some stuff outside of the kink world that nurture you both emotionally, physically. Maybe go play some sports, go touch some grass, right? Go to a museum, get some culture, explore a new hobby. Spend some time in nature, read a book, watch a movie, cook something, right? Make a space for things that's going to fill your cup that aren't necessarily the lifestyle itself. And then you've got to prioritize your mental health. You have to consider integrating tools like possibly therapy or mindfulness practices, simply scheduling some personal downtime in your routine. Self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary for sustaining your energy and your enthusiasm in the lifestyle. And I talk to people about this all the time. Whenever anybody who listens to me and who's ever worked with me, and I have quite a few of my clients do listen to my show, they know that one thing I tell them after we're done with therapy, you take an hour of you time. You go do whatever you want. Whatever we've been thinking about, you get a pass. Go do an hour of whatever you want to do, because that's what it's about. You got to recover a little bit. All right? And the final step here is reevaluate your boundaries. Reflect on those limits, right? Maybe you need to consider whether they've shifted over time. Perhaps, you've taken on a little bit more than you could handle and you've become overwhelmed. Maybe your interests have changed. And that does happen. So you got to reassess these boundaries. You got to, maybe make some adjustments and to some of your engagement in the scenes, or maybe even your dynamic. But this prevents burnout from creeping back in, and it allows you to create a more balanced, experience moving forward. Handling burnout really is about recognizing what you need and taking deliberate steps to prioritize your well-being. Because if you don't and you burn out completely, you're going to end up being done with the lifestyle. And I'm not talking even a couple days or weeks, not even necessarily months, possibly for years or forever. So you've really got to remember that experiencing burnout doesn't mean that you failed, right? And you need to just quit everything. It just becomes an opportunity for you to grow, reflect, and ultimately a chance for you to return when things kind of get back into that balance for yourself. And if you can do a couple of these things that I'm suggesting here, you not only get to manage your burnout and stop it from growing, but allows you to build a more sustainable and fulfilling future inside of the lifestyle within the community or with a partner. Now, as I'm kind of wrapping this all together up today, I want to leave you with a little bit of this thought. Burnout just isn't, it's not about a sign of failure here. It's a wake-up call. It's a chance to hit the reset button when you need it, right? This allows you to come back stronger and more in tune with what you truly want, what you truly need. And you got to take a moment to think about where you are right now. And are you pushing yourself too hard, or are you ignoring those little signs that maybe something's wrong or something's off? It's really important to check in with yourself, right? It goes back to capacity, and I've talked about this before. Whether maybe journaling or talking with somebody or just having a quiet moment to yourself to sit and reflect. It's perfectly okay to take a step back and do this. If anyone, community members or, mentors telling you, or a partner saying, no, you can't do that, that's a good sign you probably really need to do that step back. If you've been through burnout or you're dealing with it right now, let me know. I'd like to hear from you in the comments section. Tell me about your experiences. They really do help others understand who might be feeling the same way, because sharing can be really powerful here, because you never know who might benefit from your story. It's why I often, if I can, share how I've connected over the years and share my stories with the lifestyle and let people know that, these things happen to everybody, right? If you are feeling stuck, though, don't hesitate to reach out. There's no shame in asking for help. It's that whole part of taking care of yourself. So, if you are looking for a therapist who's very familiar with the lifestyle, or if you're looking for someone who works with trauma-related issues or depression or couple dynamics, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact me through my website, www.enhanced-mind.com. The link is in my description. I also want to let everybody know I've done a new partners dynamic checklist that's available for free on my website. All you have to do is go to the resources section. There's a tab. It's on the top of my website all the way to the far right. It says resources. Click there. You go to my Google Drive and you can download the resources that I've made available. It is completely for free. Nobody has to pay me for it. I made that available to the community. It's a couple pages long, right? All of these things are another great way to check in, start figuring our things out, right? But I do want to let you know, yes, in the coming weeks, I have been reaching out to a couple people in the community I really would love to talk to about some different topics. I want to do some shows, or I want to do a show on spanking and everything that surrounds that. So if you are a spankor or a spankee and you'd like to share your experiences with the world, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me through FetLife. You can reach out to me here through email, thekinkperspective altogether @gmail.com. Let me know about your experiences, maybe how long. I'm still building out my show about what BDSM looks like in the Middle East. I'm still not done kind of compiling everything. That'll probably be dropped a little later in the year, just before the year ends. I will get that out there. And I do have a couple of other shows coming up that I'm hoping are going to be quite beneficial for the community. I hope all of my shows are beneficial for the community. But let me know what you thought today. If you've experienced burnout, how you're dealing with it. Like I said, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Rate the show 5 stars, Apple or Spotify. It's really helpful, right? Like I said, helps my show grow. And again, if you feel like it, please hit that donate button. Donate whatever you can. It does help me cover all the costs for production and everything else. So, burnout. I've been there, and then I came out of it. It gave me an opportunity once I experienced it to reflect on what I was missing. And I think when I burned out, it was early on. I don't know. I was probably 5 or 6 years in. And I think that when I burned out, I think that took me out of the game for about 9 months. Maybe I feel like I was a little longer. There was a couple of other things surrounding the issue of my burnout, but at that point, I just took some time and took stock. It's a common phrase, but I did. I took stock of what I wanted And then I kind of, I found my quote unquote, I found my sparkle again, and I got back right into it, and been going strong ever since for last 18, 19 years, and I really enjoy it. There's not a lot of aspects of the lifestyle I don't like. There's a lot of things I don't do, but it's a whole different story. So, anyways, let me know what you think. Drop some comments in there. Let's talk about burnout this week. Until next time, everybody, be safe and stay kinky.